Can you hear the Canadian geese? Okay, I think that's it. So welcome to the first episode of Foray's podcast. I'm Jasmine McBride. I am the host, the creator, the writer, the everything for this. So it's really just you and me. We're just gonna be chatting. I'm coming to you live from my writing cabin. As you can see, I'll talk more about that later, but I think it's 7 p.m. or so. 7 p.m. in July. We're in this little writing cabin in the countryside woods area. And we've got a bunch of candles here. We've got my phone. I've got my chair, my desk, and my notebook with my notes. And we're going to try this and we're going to see how this podcast thing goes. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is this week's Substack was called The Passenger Princess to Delayed Driver Pipeline, and the subtitle was Refusing Age and Other Anecdotes. So I'm going to go into that quite a bit. And so I'm first going to talk about how I'm 24 and I got my first ever learner's permit to drive about a week and a half ago, which I know is late and I know is very unconventional, especially for North America. But in my defense, all my friends from Paris, from high school, from university in London, everything, like very few have their driver's license. So of my best friends, I think maybe one has a driving license and isn't confident too. And then of my wider friends, it's basically the same as well. Like just very few have their driver's license. So, you know, I'm not alone. I'm not completely guilty. It's not completely my fault, but still, like, I'll take the responsibility where it lands. So yes, I got my driver's license, my learner's permit, I should say. And I was really shocked the first kind of like 1-2 times I drove, especially because the second time was in the rain. But I was so shocked while I was driving by how physical it was and how high stakes it was. And obviously this is quite a redundant point because everyone knows how dangerous it is. You always hear like it's the most dangerous thing you can ever do. You know, people dying, all this kind of stuff, like not great stuff. And I knew that. But I think in the back of my head, because it's so dangerous, I then almost immediately assumed that there were safeguards, or maybe it was that someone had put something in place so that it wasn't just humans driving, so that there was like some sort of safety barriers or guardrails. And I'm not talking about self-driving cars, that's completely different. I'm talking about like a normal car right now. And when I was driving, I realized that no, in fact, there's none of that. If you want to hit that person, you could literally hit that person, which is obviously violent and like no one should do that. And I'm not doing that, so just saying. But it was a weird realization that, you know, all these years I've been walking as a pedestrian alongside the road, not thinking about it, biking alongside the road, you know, keeping to my little lane, but not like worried per se, you know, not as worried as maybe I should have been or I will be now that I know how much free will is involved in driving. And I think like that was a real curious thing for me, was that I didn't expect for there to be so much free will in driving. I thought it was going to be like relatively easy and determined, and you stay in this lane and you go at this speed, and it's not that, like, it's almost like an intuitive type thing. And it shocked me how physical it was, how visceral it was, how much control you have over it, and how much freedom you have with it, honestly. And it was funny because that realization and the shock of that reminded me so much of the first time I had sex, which might be TMI for the first episode of this podcast. But it was the sort of thing where it's like, wow, okay, this is a physical, real thing. There's no soundtrack, and you have to keep focused and keep your attention on the moment and on yourself and all sort of thing and on what's happening on the road or with the other person. And if you, for 1 minute, waver away or whatever, it's done. Like, it's done. Either the pedestrian's dead or you're out of the moment, or, yeah, so that was just an interesting thing. That's a little sideline. I think for me, one of the biggest reasons I decided to take the plunge and begin to learn how to drive and get my learner's permit. And I don't make too big of a deal with this because I did just get my learner's permit, not my actual license, and I've only been driving for a week and a half. So, you know, it's not like I'm not Charles Leclerc yet, you know, they're still kind of just beginning. But I think like one of the biggest reasons was that I genuinely want to start acquiring more skills, because I feel like we just have very little skills, to be honest with you. Like, the reason I decided to begin driving, to start my learning curve on all of this, was because I really just wanted to start acquiring some real skills. And, you know, I feel like us as a generation, we actually don't have that many genuine skills. This is actually like a thought process I really started thinking about in June, July, when I was in Japan. We were visiting all these temples across Japan, and I'm a big fan of Japanese tea ceremony culture, especially like older ones that incorporate like wabi-sabi in them and all those different kind of philosophical things. And we visited a bunch of really interesting tea houses, especially in Kyoto. Really, I think the one I'm thinking right now is called the Toyobo, not the Toy Boy, the Toyobo tea house in Kyoto. And I think it's from the 1500s. And it was so interesting seeing it because it was built from like one of the original designs of Sino Rikyu, who is one of the original masters of the Japanese tea ceremony. And so it was really linked to his philosophies and everything. And it was quite an impactful moment for me to see it in person. When I was looking at it, it's a very small structure. It's not big at all. It's very small. And it's designed... I'm sorry, it literally sound like coyotes. Okay, I actually think those are coyotes, and I think they're kind of close, but... okay, whatever. We're just gonna pretend that doesn't exist. What was I talking about? Okay, yeah. So... seeing this and seeing the way that it's quite small, the design of the tea house, but it was done so specifically and with such care and thought. But, you know, it's made from clay and tatami mats, and it's not like a very complicated structure. And I was looking at it, I was thinking, wow, like, I would love to build that. Like, I love these Japanese tea ceremonies, and I'm so into it. And I would love to build a little tea house myself, maybe like on our farm, our country place here in Canada. And I was really thinking about it, and I was thinking about the fact that, like, it probably... oh my god, there's so many coyotes. Okay, besides that, the fact that I like don't know if I should be worried or not. Okay. And I was saying the fact that I would love to build one, to actually like get the clay, get the bricks, and just make one here. And then maybe start thinking about like physical skills, like could I do that? Like, do I even have the physical skills to do that? Do I have the physical skills to build a little tea house like that? It's probably not complicated, especially considering there's no electricity, plumbing, anything like that. It's just a small little thing, put like a fire pit in the middle, a hole up top. You know, I could design different ways, but would I even have the skills for that? And the thing about that is that so few of us actually know how to do things. And I was really like bemoaning it, and I wrote about half a Substack about this. And I was saying, but like, what kind of skills can we even learn nowadays that are useful and are relatively considered like need to required knowledge? And one of the biggest ones obviously was driving, which at the time I had zero experience in, never had my learner's permit, anything. So that felt a little hypocritical, to writing an article about how everyone needs to get more, you know, gain more and acquire more hard skills, and yet I don't know how to drive. So this was the beginning of it. So that sort of made me think, okay, Jasmine McBride, let's learn how to drive. And then that was like one of the main reasons I decided to learn how to drive. So I had to begin this process. Another one was that I was just so goddamn fucking tired of being in the back seat. And I think this is something that if you already know how to drive, you probably don't care about this as much. Or if you're younger, you probably don't care about this as much. I think it's really only for my fellow peers out here who are a little bit older. So like, I'd say I began feeling this at like 22. So like, maybe 21, but 22 for sure. Like 22 and up, who don't know how to drive. And sorry, I'm just looking at for coyotes. Who don't know how to drive and who are in the back seat. Whether it's, you know, parents driving, friends driving, Uber driving. Grateful, of course. Grateful that someone else is driving you. Like, it's incredible, and it's really a lovely act of service they're doing, and so I'm really grateful for it. But I just felt like, oh my god, I'm a child. I'm a literal fucking child. I don't know how to drive in the back seat. Like, this is ridiculous. I am 24 years old. I'm doing all these other things, and I'm in the back seat still. What the hell? And obviously then I started snowballing, and I was like, in the backseat of the car, I'm in the backseat of my life, I need to get into the steering wheel, I need to drive my life, And once like a physical situation goes into being a metaphor in my brain for how I need to improve or like what's going wrong, then I know I need to deal with the physical situation first. So that was how we got to the learner's permit. A little message for my friends who don't know how to drive yet or haven't started it. Just do it. It's honestly, the knowledge test is very easy, I will say. Like, I just studied a couple days, and this is for the Canadian one, so I don't know if it's different. Just do it. Honestly, do it. And then do the practice, whatever, but actually learn, because thing is that I can't be the only one who knows how to drive now, because that's just gonna be fucked up. So yeah. So that's all about my main Substack this week and the experience of learning how to drive. And if you read it, you probably know that about half a Substack I devote to an anecdote about my 3 high school friends, Helena, Tommaso, Luca, and I, going to a week-long trip in Bourgogne in the French countryside in 2021. How we had no car, and it was incredible. Honestly, one of the best trips ever, but it was also a logistical nightmare, and any person who's type A would hate it, but thankfully none of us are type A, and we love a good detour. So it was basically a whole week of detours that was incredible. And writing about that trip, which, you know, is very close to my heart, and I'm very grateful because I have many I literally think there's like coyotes around here. You know, I love nature and I love being in this cabin, but like, that's kind of scary. What the fuck? Okay. I'm very grateful because I've had a lot of really beautiful trips with my friends like this, where it's drop a pin and go. No, it like, you know, plane, bus, ferry, train, whatever, like spend, you know, do a 40-hour train trip, do this, do that, all these kinds of things that are so happenstance, but very fun and very free. This trip in particular is very special to me because it was the tail end of COVID. I had just gone through, like literally 2 weeks before, a really intense breakup, and my friends and I, you know, they were my really good high school friends. We were very close to each other, and it was just a really special energy, a really special time. And as I was writing about it, and especially because I was looking through all the photos that our friend Luca, who's an incredible photographer, check him out, all the photos he took, it really made me quite sad and quite nostalgic for being that young and that free and that happenstance. Like, of the 4 of us, everyone was either still in university or had just graduated university. No one had a job yet. It was just complete, like, I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea what's gonna happen next. I have no idea what I'm going to do. It was complete anarchy in a way, like life planning anarchy for sure. But it was so fun. And it's kind of like real freedom, like real happenstance freedom, to just grab your best friends and be like, okay, let's go, random place, the countryside for a week. And not even traveling where it's like, oh, I'm ticking off items on my bucket list and I'm enriching my life. And it was enriching, of course, but going to like a random place in the countryside is not like you're gonna go see the Trevi Fountain for the first time, you know, like you've seen a hay bale. Like it's not going to like really add a massive difference in your life, the physical place itself. It was more just the experience. And thinking about it and writing about it made me so nostalgic for it. It made me really, really, really want to do it again. Like be there, be in that moment with my friends again. Like if I could snap my fingers and be back in Bourgogne right now with them, I completely would. And that's not to say I don't love my life right now, because I do. You know, I'm in the middle of woods in Canada right now, which is great countryside. I'm about to move to New York, which I'm very excited for. But still, a part of me wants to go back to that moment where I had nothing going on, had no idea what's happening in my life, was completely lost, and also had to walk for many hours in the rain just to get food. Like that was sometimes the happiest things. And I even just read, now I'm recommending someone else's Substack, but it reminds me of Shalom Muslander's Substack from I think 2 weeks ago, where he's talking, I believe the title was "We'll Miss These Miserable Days," because sometimes it feels like that. Like sometimes and this was not miserable, but sometimes the most unaesthetic, unpicturesque, you know, like sometimes something that like if you told your other friends, they'd be like, okay, like great. Sometimes those moments are actually the sweetest, most tangible times that just really break open your heart. And so I wanted it again. I really want to be back there again. I want to do it again. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about, well, how can I go back there? And I realized, could we even go back there? Is it even possible to do that again? Like, I'm only 24. I was 21 then. This is only 3 years ago. It's not that long ago. I'm still very young. But at the same time, so part of me is like, okay, don't be dramatic. Like, don't think you're older than you are. You know, don't stop yourself, this kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, genuinely, could we do that again? Can you do anything again? You know, would we have that freedom again? Because the thing is that I know, I don't really know, I'm still looking for a job, but I have an idea of like how my life is going to go, hopefully, blah, 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 which direction, as do all my friends. And like, will we ever get back to that place? Because there was a period in time where we did that all the time. We were seeing each other constantly, you know? We'd organize a summer trip all the time. We do this, we do that. And now, like, there's a chapter shift, and it's like we haven't as much anymore. It's with this specific group of friends I'm talking about. And they know who they are. They know I love them so deeply. And it just makes me so nostalgic for it. It made me start feeling like I'm so old. Like, I'm so old at 24. Like, what the fuck? Why do I feel I'm so old at 24? People always say some people are older than their actual age, you know, your mental age, your emotional age, your physical age, all that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like I just want to refuse time. And that's probably the silliest thing ever to say, that you want to refuse time. But I don't want to. I don't want to really, I want to stay young forever. I want to stay young forever. And I don't care saying that. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to not be able to go and see my friends for a week and do random things. One of my happiest times in life is hanging out. Sorry, I'm just like nervous about coyotes right now. It's kind of ruining the vibe, I know, but like, I'm such a hangout girl. I am such a hangout girl. I love to hang out. I love to hang out with my friends. If you know me, you know I love to hang out. Let's go. Let's talk till 5 a.m. Let's do this, that. I don't care what we're doing or where we are. I just want to hang out with my best friends. Period. Point blank. Like, that's what I want to do. And the idea that like the path that we're on and the times that we're, and the time that's like ticking by is separating me from that and is making that more and more difficult is genuinely heartbreaking. Because what the fuck is the point if you can't hang out with your friends? And I don't want to do, I'm not talking about fancy dinners. I'm not talking about anything that's like cool. Nothing cool. I don't care about the cool. I care about hanging out. Why are we hanging out more in general? Like, why is it everything has to be so complicated now? Like, whatever happens, just going to your friend's place on a Saturday, smoking a joint and staying there for 7 hours, you know? And I think to a certain degree that it doesn't have to change. Like, I think to a certain degree, obviously saying I want to stop aging is completely, just never, obviously saying I want to stop aging is a completely exaggerated comment. I'm not going to be able to stop aging. Neither is any of us. But I do feel like we can refuse it to a certain degree. Like, 24 is how I make it. Same as 21 was, same as 28 will be, 38, 58. It will literally be as I make it. I don't have to act any different than if I don't want to, or if it doesn't come natural. I don't have to. And I'm not saying to be irresponsible. I'm not saying to shrug off, work or your life's purpose or anything like that at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you don't have to mentally decide, I decided to deprioritize this because I feel like I should, instead of I want to, or like that's my plan, you know? You don't have to deprioritize your friends to your partner if you don't want to. One of my last questions with this is, am I yearning in vain? Am I yearning in vain? Or am I being dramatic? And do I just need to actually text my friends more? So those are the different questions we could talk about. I think to a degree I am yearning in vain, because when things change, they change. And I can't go back to that moment. No one can go back to any moment. And I feel like a real chapter shift right now. I'm moving, a lot of my friends are moving. Or if they were in London, a lot of them are leaving London, changing jobs, changing careers, getting to like a different place in life. And I really feel that for a lot of us. So I think there's a level where it is going to be so different. I think I am yearning in vain to a certain point, which is honestly really depressing. And then besides that, the other question, additional one, or am I being dramatic and can I easily get back to that moment? But I think I can't get back to that moment. I think I think you have to work it. Like, it's like you basically have to swim against the current. That's essentially what it is. And I don't think it's impossible, and I think, it's probably actually good for you. I think swimming against the current of time probably makes you a lot stronger than going with it. And I think that's how people end up being young forever, is swimming against the current of time. That's it. Swim against the current of time. That is the title and the message of this week's podcast. Swim against the current of time. You'll be younger and stronger forever. So yeah. And if you're my friends, can we hang out soon? Because what the fuck? Anyways, stop working. No, I'm kidding. Go to your job. Go to your job, but still, like, let's hang out. Okay. And then, so I want to do a little update on me. I feel like we're at 24 minutes right now on this podcast. So I want to do a little update on me and a little bio on me and what this whole podcast is going to be about. I'm Jasmine McBride. My name's Jasmine McBride. I write this Substack called Forays. I'll probably link it in the show notes, or I have no idea how this podcast is going to be published, but wherever, link it there. I'm a writer. I've been writing since I was quite young. I have recently finished my first novel. I'm a few days out from doing my final edit. It's been 3 years in the process. 2 years of writing and a year of editing, but a very protracted year of editing, partly because I didn't really realize how much editing compared to writing goes into a novel. Like, I thought it was majority writing and then a thin veneer of editing. And in fact, that's not the truth, which I've discovered myself. But I have gone through a couple edits, and now I believe, fingers crossed, I'm on my final one, and I'm on my penultimate chapter of my final one. And I'm looking to get that published soon. I went to university in London. I'm Canadian American, grew up in Paris, went to university in London, lived there for 3 years afterwards. I graduated when I was 21 years old. I'm 24 now. I'm moving to New York in a few weeks, so I'm looking for a job and all that kind of stuff there. So right now we are at my family's country place in Canada. It's a farm. We've had it for a very long time. And my current writing cabin that you see me in, this cabin was built about 2 decades ago. So yeah, it was built 2 decades ago when I was around 4. I want to say my parents had it built for me and my sister. And it literally looks like a little cabin with a porch and shutter windows and a swinging door from the outside. My parents had it built as a dollhouse for us. We used to have all our playthings in here. We, playhouse and all that kind of stuff when I was younger. And then, probably when I was like 10, 11, 12, something like that, we stopped using it. And so it just kind of sat unused on the property for about a decade. Probably more, like maybe a decade and a half. And, it sort of became slightly a storage unit. And then at one point, we just sort of, not abandoned it, but kind of. And there were just tons of bird nests in here. And I think multiple different kinds of critters were using it as a house, which I cannot blame them, because if I was a critter, I would do the exact same thing. But then this summer, when I came back to our farm a couple weeks ago, I've always really, really, really wanted to have a little writing cabin, because I love writing the nature, and I love solitude. I love quiet and solitude when I'm writing. Just want to feel like no one's seeing me, like I'm by myself and I can just work and I'm not being watched, which maybe is like something to get into, but whatever. And so I decided to take in the project and clean it all out and make it into my own little space. And so with the help of my mom and my grandma, we cleaned it out. We took out so many birds' nests. We really hosed it down. There was a lot of bugs and dirt and cobwebs and wasps' nests and some really questionable things in here. Thankfully, I'm not that skittish of bugs, so, I'm not too scared. I think if you were really skittish of bugs, you probably couldn't be in here, because it is a cabin in the woods, so even though it's clean, there's still bugs. Anyways, we cleaned it out, and then we repainted the outside. The inside was still really well painted, which is nice. And then I bought a desk, this desk here, at the Salvation Army. It's really cute, it fits perfectly. Got a chair, a carpet, a bench, multiple candles because there's no electricity, so we just have lots of candles going on. Citronella candles for the mosquitoes. Then I got some wildflowers outside. Right now, just look at my desk. I have my laptop, my journal, 2 candles, a glass of milk, sunglasses, cookies, a lighter, and some matches. So yeah, this is my writing cabin now. I'll post some photos of it on my Instagram if you guys want to see more. I really love it. I love it. I kind of want to call it the Jabin. That's obviously, I don't know if that's a good name. Jasmine's cabin. The Jabin. So yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. These will get better as time goes on. That I promise. These will get lots and lots better. I just always wanted to do a podcast, and I'm going to get good at it. For now, I base my podcast episodes off of that week's Substack. I feel like the Substack then provides a nice basis of emotional imagery, information to go off on. And I thought it'd be interesting to start this podcast because I thought people might be interested in hearing the thoughts a writer has going into a piece, writing the piece, and then afterwards. And also for me, because when I write a piece, I get lots of tangents going on in my head of other things of interesting to talk about and touch on, this sort of stuff. But I don't often do it because obviously, you need to edit a piece. It can't be forever. And you need to kind of stick to relatively a point, even though sometimes it doesn't. But so I thought this would be an interesting time to explore those thoughts, but in a different medium, which is this one. I really want to get into interviewing people as well and all that kind of thing. So yeah, this is my first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tune in next week.